Alright, for question 1, I noticed that the play tackled the difficulties of living as both a black person and a woman in the early 1900s. I found it interesting that Esther had a very well put together life, but still ended up giving all her saved money to George in the end. I also found it very interesting that the play ended up creating some more complex relationships between the characters, the biggest example of this being the relationship between Esther and Mrs. Van Buren. For question 2, one value that is being represented in this world is inequality. This is most represented by Esther, who is clearly very talented, but is held back by the situation she is in. She is a black woman, which was significantly handicapped her opportunities of living a successful life in New York. Another value that is being represented in this world is intimacy. Esther, Mame, and Mrs. Van Buren all have different problems with intimacy. Esther is more emotionally intimate with George and Mr. Marks. Esther is intimate with George through the letters, but they lose their sense of intimacy with their marriage. Esther is more emotionally intimate with George, but not physically intimate with the man. Mame has a lot of physical contact with men, but does not have any intimacy towards any of them. And Mrs. Van Buren is married, but she and her husband are becoming more emotionally isolated as she is unable to conceive a child. For question 3, something I did not understand while reading the play was the quote, "How we friends when I'm not allowed through the front door?" After research, the quote shows that the economic and social gap between the both of them does not allow their friendship to truly prosper. I feel as if social and economic gaps will make the friendships more difficult nowadays and even more difficult in the past. For question 4, I feel as if this play reinforces our understanding of the African American experience. African Americans were discriminated in the early 1900s, and the play reinforces the difficulty that they faced by showing the difficulty that Esther faces. This play resists the stereotypes that were held against African Americans during the 1900s. Esther is very focused and talented, clearly having the talent to live a fulfilling life. She also had a lot of money saved to start her dream business, showing the sense and initiative to make it in America. I think Nottage's purpose of writing this play is that stereotypes are often false and inaccurate. Esther shows more focus than George, who uses Esther's money for horrible things, and I think it also shows that stereotypes can hold people back too. And then for question 5, stereotypes still exist in this day and age against African Americans and a lot of other groups. The thing that perpetuates stereotypes is judgments from society and racism. The thing that overcomes this is people being accepting of others and just being less judgmental towards others. For question 6, one question I have is, why did Esther give her money to George when it was clear that it would only hurt her in the end? And my other question is, how do you think the play would have gone if Esther was white instead of black?